Philadelphia is the asylum of the disaffected. The very air is contagious. The Quakers in general are wolves in sheep's clothing, and while they shelter themselves under the pretext of contentious scruples, they are the more dangerous. Philip Schuyler.
Philadelphia may have been the place where the Patriots were trying to form a national government, but its citizens were deeply divided.
I think one of the really great examples of the difficulties of any kind of sort of neutral place is what happens to the Quakers over the course of the war. The Quakers are famously pacifist, and that's not good enough in revolutionary America.
When the first anniversary of American independence was celebrated in the city that July, Patriots had called upon homeowners to place candles in their windows as a symbol of fidelity to the cause. Thomas and Sarah Fisher's home on 2nd Street remained dark that evening and suffered 15 broken windows. The Fishers were Quakers and therefore officially neutral. Their faith, one believer explained, held that setting up and putting down of kings and governments is God's peculiar prerogative. Patriots routinely raided their shops and warehouses to supply the Continental Army. But the Fishers were defiant. They would not accept Continental money or pay any tax that supported the war, and they refused to denounce King George III. On August 23rd, the Fishers rode out to Stenton, Sarah's family's country estate near Germantown.
On the road, we heard the disagreeable news that Washington's army is to march that way. We met numbers of wagons and light horsemen, and on our getting to Stenton found General Washington's bodyguard had taken possession of our house. They behaved civil, were very quiet, and Washington appeared extremely grave and thoughtful.
For decades, Winchester, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, had been an important way station on the Great Wagon Road that settlers followed through the backcountry from Philadelphia to the Carolinas. Because it was so far inland, Winchester served new purposes. It was a relatively safe place for storing military supplies and materiel, a safe haven for refugees, and a place to house prisoners of war. Suspected loyalists were often exiled to Winchester, too.
We not unfrequently made acquaintance with agreeable men who were condemned to banishment in this dreary place, on account of disaffection, as it was called, to the great cause of liberty. Amongst those proscribed, genteel Quakers from Philadelphia were numerous.
One of those Quakers was Sarah Fisher's husband, Thomas. As British troops advanced on Philadelphia, Congress and the local authorities had convinced themselves that he and 7 other wealthy Quakers were communicating with the enemy. They had them arrested, and when they again refused to swear allegiance to the new government, loaded them into wagons and sent them off under guard to Winchester. Now alone in Philadelphia, Sarah Fisher had 2 small boys to care for and was nearly 8 months pregnant.
I feel forlorn and desolate, and the world appears like a dreary desert, almost without any visible protecting hand to guard us from the ravenous wolves and lions that prowl about for prey, seeking to devour those harmless innocents that don't go hand in hand with them in their cruelty and rapine.
Her husband's only crime, Sarah Fisher said, was that he saw himself as a subject of Britain. But she was cheered to see that rebels and their sympathizers, including all the members of the Continental Congress, were now fleeing the city in fear of the enemy's approach after the American defeat at Brandywine.
People in very great confusion, some flying one way and some another, as if not knowing where to go or what to do. wagons rattling, horses galloping, women running, children crying, delegates flying, and altogether the greatest consternation, fright, and terror that can be imagined.